Oh, here we go. Hi, everyone. My name's Jennifer Tarr. I'm the General Manager of Stanwell Energy. I'll just share my presentation. Today I've been asked to talk on the topic of solutions for large-scale customers. What I'm hoping to cover today is who is Stanwell Energy, who are our customers, the challenges that large customers are facing, how we support our customers with these challenges, our pipeline of renewable opportunities, and our hydrogen project. And I'll leave time at the end for any questions. So, who is Stanwell Energy? Well, Stanwell Energy is the retailing arm of Stanwell Corporation. Stanwell Corporation is the largest generator in Queensland, and as Stanwell Energy, the retailing arm, we retail directly to large users of electricity in Queensland, New South Wales, the ACT and Victoria. We've served large commercial and industrial customers for over 10 years. In fact, in Queensland, we are the largest retailer in Queensland. We specialise in customers that are very large. So this we define as greater than 5 gigawatt hours of electricity per year. But in fact, most of our customers use greater than 20 gigawatt hours of energy per year. Our large commercial and industrial customers cover all industries, including mining, universities, councils, major retailers, manufacturing plants, data centres, and that sort of thing. So what's most important to large-scale customers? We have actually asked our customers this in surveys that we've conducted with them. Most important are these four things here. So competitive pricing, customers want competitive pricing, they want timely and accurate billing, they want a retailer that's customer focused, that can work with them on tailored solutions that's flexible in their approach, and they want an availability of green or renewable options. So what are the challenges for large-scale customers? There are a number of challenges, but I've decided to talk about just two challenges here, being the volatile wholesale prices, which adds complexity to the way they manage their business and their electricity costs. And secondly, determining the best way that they can meet their environmental, social, governance priorities, including any commitments, public commitments they've made in renewable energy. So talking firstly about wholesale prices and the volatility of that, let's have a look at the FINEA 23 forward prices. So when a customer signs up for an electricity deal, if they've locked in a fixed price, the time that they lock in the fixed price and the period that they lock in the fixed price for, is the electricity price they pay is based on the forward price at the time. The forward prices are quite volatile, and they're quite fickle as well. Trading volumes sometimes aren't very large, and there can be large movements based on sentiment and what's happening in the spot market rather than the predicted forward outcomes. So for example, the FINEA 23 contract, as I talk through the trends here on this contract, you'll hear that it's a lot of the outcomes are a lot based on what's been happening in the spot market at the time. So this is a 2-year history of the FINEA 23 contract. This, as you can see, from around January 2020, all three curves, New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria, dropped. And this was because of COVID uncertainty bringing in lower demands in the spot market. So that was a continued period of lower wholesale market prices. Then we're around here now at January 2021, a further reduction in these forward prices. And that was because of the spot outcomes in the regions in Q1. So Q1 is normally considered the most volatile period in the electricity market. That's when we've had very hot summers causing high electricity prices. But in Q1 2021, the prices were low because of a cooler and wetter summer than usual because of because of the weather. So prices came off here at the end of that summer. Then beginning in Q2, prices began to rally slightly as there was reduced supply in the spot market due to maintenance of equipment, maintenance of large generators in Q2. Then around Q3, there was some unscheduled outages, including the incident at the Callide Power Station, which caused wholesale spot prices to increase, which continued the upward trend in this forward market prices, because as the spot prices were high, that meant generators were running harder because there was less availability of those generators that were on unscheduled outages. There was concern about coal availability and fuel availability for the generators, meaning that prices continued to rise. Noteworthy here is that the Victorian market has come off, and that we've put down to the extended lockdown in Victoria and the restrictions that were in place there on industry. So volatile, as always, the forward prices and a challenge for large customers. Next, a little look at the LGC prices. So electricity customers, they, as well as paying for their energy prices, which are related to the forward electricity prices, they also pay for their contribution to the retailer's renewable energy target liability. And they do that by paying for LGCs and STCs, which are renewable energy certificates. So the LGCs come from large-scale generators that are renewable generators, accredited renewable generators, and every certificate that's generated from one of these accredited renewable power plants is associated with 1 megawatt hour of electricity. At the moment, customers need to pay for around 19% of their electricity with one LGC, so around 20% extra related to the cost of LGCs. So the price of LGCs is a big factor in customers' volatile wholesale prices. So as you can see, looking at the forward prices here, which is related to the prices that customers pay for electricity contracts, there's been a general upward trend in all 4 of these forward markets for electricity, and in particular, quite a large jump in prices in the last couple of months for LGCs. And this is because that in those forward periods, there's been a large increase in demand for LGCs at the same time that there's been some delays in renewable projects coming online. What we've heard is that what we've seen actually is that there's been a large increase in corporate buying for LGCs. We'll talk more about that later in what customers are wanting to do with their renewable energy, but in many cases it comes down to increased demand for LGCs above the 20% requirement. Some customers are wanting to do 100% renewable energy, which means they need to secure their load with 100% of LGCs, which adds to buying pressure in the LGCs. The next thing that's volatile and of rising concern to large-scale customers is FCAS prices. So I know that FCAS, probably many people don't know much about FCAS. We don't talk about it much, but as part of the customer's electricity bill, not only are they paying for the electricity costs, the LGC and STCs, the renewable energy target component, that is, they're paying for the network charges, they're also paying on a cost pass-through basis the costs associated with AEMO's, the Australian Energy Markets Operation, pass-through of costs related to management of frequency in the electricity market. So in particular, customers are paying for frequency control lower services so AEMO charges the retailer and the retailer charges the customer on a cost pass-through basis. And what we've observed, and which has caused concern for some of our large customers, is increases in FCAS prices, sometimes 10 times the volume, the amount of FCAS prices on the electricity bill. So of course this is just a small component of the electricity bill when you consider the energy charges being so high, the renewable energy target being about 20%, and now FCAS prices, in comparison is a lot smaller, but to see this sort of unhedgeable risk some customers have been concerned about. So here's an example just on this last Saturday where this is an example from Queensland. So FCAS lower prices had a pretty much a record time at the price cap of $15,000 per megawatt hour. And that's due to the changing nature of the electricity market. So we're seeing more solar carve out in the middle of the day, meaning that there's reduced excess generation, excess solar generation, reduced need for generators to, so what I'm saying is generators are down at their minimum load as the solar in the middle of the day is generating. So scheduled generators are down at minimum load, and they can't very easily reduce their load even further. And that's where these FCAS services come from. They're a payment to generators to reduce load, to reduce their generation output, to reduce frequency. And when generators can't go any lower, that's creating a supply problem for these FCAS services, which is where the prices go so high. So in this case, there were two factors on Queensland and Saturday. One was some line work that was impacting the export of generation from Queensland into New South Wales. Basically, the generators weren't able to export into New South Wales, which meant they were the generation was stuck in Queensland. Prices were low in the middle of the day. The generators were at minimum load, and any excess generation wasn't able to be moved to New South Wales. So they were at minimum, weren't able to reduce any more. So these FCAS prices became really high. It's more of an emerging risks. It has caused concern for some of our customers, but something to watch, I think, in future as we see the nature of our market changing with the change in the generation mix and the shape of our load in each state. So how we're helping our customers with this kind of market volatility, we've got we offer customers a range of methods to help them manage this sort of volatility. One approach that customers have been quite interested in is a long-term renewable PPA-based retail agreement. So this, by entering into a long-term agreement at PPA type of prices with a firm retail agreement, can avoid some of the market volatility. We can avoid market volatility depending on the way it's structured. Also, book build pricing, that's a familiar approach for a number of years now to help customers time their entry into those forward markets, making sure that the customer hasn't locked in prices at the very top of those forward markets, that they have the opportunity to lock in at various times or when they consider is the right time to put the fixed price in place. Customers that we have already noticed the drop in forward prices during COVID last year, and they took advantage of that by extending their existing agreements and reducing their current prices. That's something that a retailer can offer current customers when prices are low, and that's something that we've helped customers with. Depending on the nature of the customer's risk appetite and their consideration of the market volatility, we offer a range of short and long-term contracts. We really try to work with customers on what they are trying to achieve and offer them the right terms for that. We have on that LGC market. Remember, that was quite volatile as well, and some customers like to take control of their management of that, or they may have access to their own project LGCs, and we allow the customers to provide them to us instead of paying those market prices. And of course, our personalised account management service means that we always talking to our customers about the movements in the markets. We've talked to our customers about the recent FCAS prices, and we try to continually inform our customers, help them understand as we understand the changes that are happening in the market. The next thing on the challenges for large-scale customers that I wanted to talk about was their ESG priorities. So the environmental, social, governance priorities, those are the considerations that investors now hold over customers, as well as the financial considerations. And as you'd all be aware, there's so much happening in this space. Many customers are committing to renewable energy in various ways, or carbon offsets, or they're also committing to public advocacy movements like the RE100, where customers are saying that they'll be 100% renewable by 2025. This graph here is quite interesting to show that of the ASX 200 companies in 2019, there was, say, like 55% had a short-term target. By the time we got to 2020, 65% had, and now once we get to 2021's information, it'll be a lot higher. In fact, as we assessed our customers earlier this year in terms of how much renewable energy they would be demanding from us, so therefore how much we should be building for them, we reviewed that, and then we just recently reviewed it again, and it was amazing to see the difference in the increase in just a couple of months of what customers are now asking us about. So in terms of how we're helping customers with that, we're finding that it's for some customers, it's a learning experience at the moment, as they are trying to understand the best way for them to make good on their commitments. So some customers are interested in doing their own projects behind the meter, for example, installing solar on a distribution centre. Other customers are interested in entering into their own PPAs, like a corporate PPA, and then having us, the retailer, firm that PPA for them and offer them a retail agreement. Other customers are interested in finding the PPA and then having Stanwell Energy be the counterparty to the PPA, and then having that incorporated into their retail agreement. And then other customers are interested in that long-term renewable PPA-based retail agreement that I was talking about earlier. So this is where Stanwell has a project, or and I'll talk more about our projects later, but they're interested in one of our own projects and incorporating that into a retail agreement. There's also carbon offsets. But I guess there's a range of options here, from expensive to less expensive, with various levels of marketing attached. Some might just be additional LGCs or green power, but I guess what's right for the customer depends on what they're trying to achieve. We've seen, so if it's about reducing scope 2 emissions, then it needs to be renewable energy. It can't be carbon offsets. If it's about really supporting a renewable transition, then it really needs to be a long-term commitment to a project, a 1-year renewable deal. I don't think it's as well. It's helpful to increase demand for LGC, so helping with that LGC price. It's probably not as credible in terms of enabling a transition of the power system. So perhaps it's a good time now to talk about our own renewable energy pipeline. It's really exciting, these projects that we're investigating. So this, you'll see over here, over 2,000 megawatts of wind, over 300 megawatts of solar. In particular, this 2,000 megawatts of wind, and that is a huge transition of our power system in Queensland. It's not just a step, a foot in the toe in the puddle or whatever it is. It's a huge commitment and investment in our renewable future. We put out an expression of interest earlier this year. We had an unprecedented response from project proponents. Over 82 projects were proposed to Stanwell, and we're now working with several well-known proponents on credible projects that will be built by 2027. And another important point here is our battery storage work here. This is important because as we put in more renewables, we need more storage to offer the firming. We also remember from that FCAS price chart from earlier, batteries can provide those frequency services, so therefore increasing supply of that, therefore reducing prices for our customers. So yeah, this is really exciting, and our customers in particular have been really interested in these projects and talking to us about the opportunities to be involved as foundation customers on some of these projects. The other major thing that we're working on within Stanwell is our renewable hydrogen export powerhouse. And this is also of benefit to customers. We've been working on this for a number of years, and we're now at the very exciting joint feasibility stage. What does that mean? That means that we are working towards a large-scale hydrogen export study, and with our partners, here they are, we've got the whole supply chain understood. So we've got our Australian counterparts, the generation, Stanwell, and hydrogen production, APA, a pipeline and gas expert. Then we've got a liquefaction and shipping partners, and then utilisation being the customers in Japan. So this is a great collaborative effort that will be done. This is the work that we're going to do quite quickly within the next 6 months, which will then lead into a final investment decision. It's for a 300 megawatt electrolyser, and we're targeting production by 2026. And it's a renewable hydrogen project, so we'll need to back the 300 megawatts electrolyser with around 1,000 megawatts of additional renewable energy. So it's really significant. Importantly for this project, what we're targeting is a price that's set by the off-takers. We're not doing a study and then determining, oh, that's too expensive. We're starting with the end in mind, the price that the Japanese will be willing to accept and consume the hydrogen for, and all components of the project are working together to reduce costs to get to that target outcome. As I said before, it'll be backed by renewable energy, new renewable projects, and there'll be other. It's really exciting, high quality jobs, many manufacturing opportunities. But for our customers, our large scale customers, this project supports energy security and reliability. The best thing about the hydrogen project from a system security and reliability point of view is it's a completely interruptible load. So that means that we can be running full pelt on the hydrogen when the prices are low, or in the middle of the day when we need the extra load in demand, but then in peak periods it can come off. In the same way that a battery is really flexible, this load is a very flexible load which will support and enhance system security and reliability. The project itself is also underpinning, as I said, 1,000 megawatts of renewable energy, and this is only phase one. Phase two is a lot bigger. If we can get phase one off the ground, it's going to be really exciting as we get into phase two. So that's it. I've left 5 minutes for questions. If anyone has any questions, and I'll just stop sharing and get back to my screen to see the questions here. What is the top priority for C&I customers in their interaction with customers, with companies such as Stanwell? The top priority is, as I said before, well, it's cost is always an important priority for customers. While they want great service, timely and accurate billing, they definitely are always concerned to get a competitive price. Secondly, these days, of course, the customers are also interested in renewable energy and talking to us about carbon offsets, how they can incorporate renewable energy into their agreement. Would it be their own power purchase agreement that they do, or one of Stanwell's power purchase agreements? How can we firm that up? Pricing, solar feed-in tariffs. These are questions that we're working with just about every customer on now as they seek to transition their Scope 2 emissions or reduce their Scope 2 emissions. Okay, well, thanks everyone. No more questions. Feel free to contact me if you'd like to talk more about my presentation today. And it's just so exciting to work with large-scale customers at this really important time in our electricity market transition.